the last part all over again?
Yeah. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter.
People, the behind the scenes process moment. What up, y'all? You alive right now on Rap Sucks Radio with your homeboy Trek Life and your fam Kev Sakota.
What up?
We also got special guest audio live in the building. You know what I'm saying? A homeboy from back in the day and currently, of course. All right, let's jump the question off. All right, look, man. Less than 2 years ago, I accidentally referred to Bruce Lee as Japanese. Is there some form of Asian pass, or did I lose? Do y'all even have those? What's up?
Well, you lived to tell about it, so you won. And I think the math of the whole situation dictates that Bruce Lee is now officially Japanese.
Yo, what up? It's DJ Icy Ice, and you're listening to Rap Sucks Radio.
Yo. RapSucksRadio.com. Your boy Trek Light, your fam Kev Sakota. We set the show off usually as per usual. For those, thank y'all for listening, by the way. Who's out here tripping? And we've decided that this week country music billboards are tripping, correct?
Yes, the whoever makes the decisions when it comes to the Billboard Country Music Charts, which we have always been avid followers of. We always kept a very close eye on what happens, the ins and outs, the various intricacies of the Billboard Music Country Charts. But this week in particular, they are tripping. So you can believe that we are experts in the subject.
What's actually happening, though?
So another person who I am an avid listener of, Lil Nas X, who I don't even know the pronunciation of his name.
Is it Nas X?
I'm assuming.
Is it spelled N-A-S?
Well, that's how it's spelled. Yes.
All right, cool. I wonder if he's a fan of Nas.
Could be.
All right, it's interesting.
Could be, but anyway, he has a song, "Old Town Road," which I had actually heard about a little bit, like 2-3 weeks ago. Okay. And this past week, what happened is that the song is legitimately has country music influences to it, but he's a young black man. Mm-hmm. And I think he calls it country trap or something like that. Yeah. And so it's got sort of a hip hop beat to it. Man, I sound old.
You do sound old.
I know
this is hella old head energy right now.
It's Kodak a lot of old head energy.
He would be in here fighting. Right? We'd have to
already be punched. By the way, I don't feel bad about anything I said about him anymore, because since we recorded that episode, he said so many way out things. He said literally way out things that I don't even want to talk about.
We will, yeah. He's gonna get.
He has aged me into old head energy just since the last time we talked about him. But anyway, so yeah, dude records a song, but he's just being creative, makes a song, blows up on SoundCloud, and I guess it had entered the Billboard Country Music Charts.
Okay.
And then they decided it wasn't country enough, and just made a decision to take it off.
That's hella odd.
I could also be ignoring a whole lot of nuance in the conversation, which, who needs that?
Who needs any nuance or any actual, backed up fact in these things? That's actually what we talked about, like in the first episode, right? Just, you know what I'm saying? Cancel culture. So we're canceling them right now as we speak, but we don't really know the whole story, though.
Right. Well, we don't. We never will.
We never will.
We're not going to.
Because no one's going to research this.
But evidently, within the last couple days, Billy Ray Cyrus,
okay,
has jumped on a remix with him of that song, I guess in hopes that it's going to go back on the country charts.
I think that's a pretty, first of all, the out here tripping portion of this altogether is like, come on, man. And this is going to be a one of these weird fusion music type conversations, because if it sounded country and it made the country music charts and it was climbing to the top, you had to remove it because you felt like your audience wasn't going to accept it. Not so much that it wasn't a country song. Like, let's say, for example, let's just use Vanilla Ice when he dropped. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, even though that clearly was a hip hop song, like, it would have been crazy to just remove it. Like, this ain't hip hop because dude's white. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's the end of the story. So that it's just kind of one of those things, man. We can't, Billboard music, y'all officially are out here tripping, and or country music Billboard, whatever the order.
It's hard to say it, yeah. And it's amazing that we can't say it, because we know that we are avid experts in that particular chart.
Is he live on CMT?
Genre.
Like, is CMT a thing live? Like, I don't even. I don't even know.
CMT could win right now.
CMT could win right now.
Just really put them on their back.
Wait, what was the late night BET show with where they used to get like where they used to play like Tip Drill, like where the videos was all nasty, whatever. CMT should take that, like, and just.
But that's the crazy thing. If I'm not mistaken, okay, first of all, the song is like less than 2 minutes long,
Right.
I believe, and I don't even think he says anything crazy. It's not like it's some kind of offensive or whatever.
Right.
It's like, really, you just had to, you really had to do that. And so now Billy Ray Cyrus is like the Green Book of country music.
The Green Book of country.
He's gonna go win a Grammy.
He's gonna go with a Grammy. Yo, Out Here Trippin', officially sponsored by no one at the moment, but I do have some ideas that I was working on. Okay. TripAdvisor, you guys can sponsor the Out Here Trippin'. Uber or Lyft, Out Here Trippin'. If there is any backpack company like Jetpack or Odyssey or whatever backpacks, y'all could jump out there with us. JanSport.
Yep.
Just these sponsors would be live for the Out Here Trippin' segment, and give me some bread. You know what I'm saying? And we'll work it out. So, have my people talk to y'all people when y'all hear this episode, and we'll make it happen. All of our 18 current listeners would love to know that you guys are
that many?
Yeah, we out here right now, man.
Wow.
We out here right now. We just getting started.
I
So
thought
it's
it
gonna be
was
crazy.
one person listening to it 18 times.
Like my brother. My brother listens to it multiple times.
Does he have like a wall with red string on it,
Yo,
connecting all the dots of what we talked
shout
about?
out to my cousin Anthony, man. He called me like he was like, "Yo, I listened to both episodes multiple times. I'm gonna call you." I was like, "Oh, all right." You know what I'm saying? This is gonna be dope. I know he's hyped about it because he listened to it multiple times.
The conversation start with, "Okay, so this is my problem with."
I didn't get a chance to talk to him yet, but I'm looking forward to his feedback, and we appreciate each and all all of y'all feedback. No, speaking of feedback, I kind of want to jump into this ALC thing now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I might move my.
I brought that up just out of amusement, but I didn't even know if we were going to talk about it.
Well, it'll be interesting in connection to it was the South. Let's keep it moving. Country music on into Southern situations.
Right, and again, I actually have no idea. Did it say where the event was held?
When you looked it up. All right. So what we know right now is that brother Al Sharpton has an event he does yearly, correct? And ALC was.
I've never been invited. Shockingly.
Shockingly. Well, you gotta get your country draw on, but he was ALC was a speaker. And she's been noted for adding a bit of twang into her talk during the event.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I don't even know if she's been known to do that.
No, noted. She's been noted. Like people are trying to jump on her for adding a little bit of twang into her talk. Right. Now, we listened to it. Audio Live pulled it up just a minute ago, and we listened to it. I didn't. It sounded like it. It sounded like there was a little bit of conjecture there.
Maybe she might have been caught up in just the community of people that she was amongst. If they were sort of a church going community like one would maybe expect Al Sharpton to invite out. But again, I don't know. I have no idea.
Right. Well, it's hard to say, but I can tell you this much. I don't give a F. Like, I don't care. It didn't matter to me. And it's kind of one of those things, and we're going to do this with politics as time goes on, and we do this with in various things, right? To me, the story is, I don't like that person, so they did this. Or, I do like that person, so they didn't do that.
They're looking for every little thing to jump on her about. But, that's kind of the least of my worries.
Yeah.
By the way, I've obviously caught a lot of trash through the years for trying to sound this way or that way on the microphone.
Have you really?
Absolutely.
People said you should. Okay, can we cut directly? So people have said you try to sound black on the microphone?
Yes.
During the radio show on KSPC?
Yes.
Wow. So you can't just talk like a human being and...
Well, they may or may not have been right at certain points in time. Especially if I was talking to somebody, when I was just wrapped up in a conversation. Especially somebody that I was comfortable with.
So it's Live has said earlier that when you're in a conversation with somebody, you might actually kind of, you know what I'm saying, and you were also saying my family and I frequent Hawaii because my wife's family's from Hawaii, and when you're around people talking pidgin, you kind of like lean into it a little bit. I try not to.
I can't wait to hear that from you, by the way.
It is never gonna happen. It is never gonna happen. Because I've been there so many times. Like now, I can keep my LA twang around them. But at first, like you start talking to them, and then you kind of roll some pidgin in too, or at least some you start to speak like Hawaiians or whatever. But
right.
I don't know. I didn't see any issue with how she was speaking. I saw some slight, like there was some slight twang added in there. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like a preacher delivery, but I didn't really hear
that's what I heard. That's what I heard is the cadence and rhythm of a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
But
a preacher also would
at
not
the end
hit
of the day,
microphone with a beer can like I
who
just
cares?
did, but go ahead. Just so y'all know out there, just keep it live. Like I mean, and if your preacher does hit the microphone with a beer can, I'm not sure if you're in the right church. Just you might want to check. Check the schedule, make sure you're in the right place, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it speaks more to, news organizations or whomever trying to jump on her for any possible thing because she's got so much game when it comes to not taking any kind of nonsense from people.
What's your opinion of her? By the way, I did promise that we wouldn't get too political, so y'all just gonna have to accept it. That's basically what's gonna happen on this show. What's your opinion of AOC?
I think she's great.
Right.
Like I wish I knew more 29-year-old people who had the experience she has, which a lot of people are discounting. Your boy called her the bartender
right
the other day, and I'm like, you're a dick.
Knock it off.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
We're not gonna do this.
So anyway,
not,
but she,
I'm
so she, from
show.
what I understand, she's very well accomplished as a person, let alone as a 29-year-old person.
Right.
She obviously won, an election that she was, I think, not expected to win
by no
against
stretch of the
someone who was
imagination.
expected to win, very heavily who's got a long history.
Yeah.
Which took a lot of hard work and a lot of know-how. And she has. At least she has an opinion and can back it up with this is what I want to do and this is how we're going to do it. At the end of the day, that puts her ahead of 90% of the people who are running things. Well, I don't want to say that. 90% of the people who are in Congress and in the Senate, in the House, in the White House,
right?
Who just say one thing and then say the completely opposite thing the next day, never really have a solution. Have taken 10 years to repeal and replace something that they said they never.
The argumentative politician, like being what we call a politician, a person who sways to each side to make sure that they maintain office, and that ultimately is the problem with American politics and probably politics in general. I don't know very much about other countries, so I don't want to step out and just speak about what their politics are like. But the fact that you can be swayed is a problem. And a lot of times you may have to put your job on the line, and that's also something that not many people are willing to do no matter what. I can dislike any of these politicians, but I know for sure that when I go to work every day, I kind of try to do what I got to do to make sure that I can keep this job. So, I try to be understanding with regard to that, but I think that her voice and the things that she speaks on are pretty powerful. Like I think that there are subjects. People may call them progressive or whatever, but I think that they're ideologies that the American public has just not really fought for. We've kind of let go. Like, you know what I'm saying? A certain amount of treatment that we as Americans, no matter who you are, have kind of just been like, whatever. We'll let these people worry about our well-being, And I think that that's what makes her kind of like a tough play in there, because it's like, wait, you're talking about things that represent on a street level, like a core level,
right?
No matter who you are, black, white, whatever.
Sure.
These things kind of are everyday household items.
Yeah, and most progressives say things that you can sit back and say that sounds great. At some point, someone's going to ask you specifically how you're going to get it done. Usually, the question is going to be how are you going to pay for it,
right?
And then you have to have an answer. And the whole thing about her that I like is that, God, I hate when people say clap back, because I'm like. I'm like, I want to duck, but whenever she has to respond to a negative criticism, she does it in a very succinct and thoughtful manner, but without being a jerk about it. You know what I mean? Which
right.
I dig. And there's a talent to that. I can't do that.
Right.
I don't think
I'm
many
amazing
people
at that,
can.
by the way.
So she's really good at that.
I looked right over it live when I said that. I knew he would respond to that. I'm pretty good at clapping back without shading.
No,
too
you
much.
you are. You're
I'm
very good at
I'm
it.
good at it. I'm amazing at that.
Yeah, I
It's a
kind of don't
skill I
like
had
it
to acquire.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But
You can't read the shade.
Fair enough. Speaking of a street level thing, we would be remiss if we didn't say rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle on this episode.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if every person that says rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle was actually a true deep fan of his music. I can certainly say that I'm one of those people who was aware and familiar with his music and liked certain songs, but I certainly wasn't a person who just had it in the whip all day, every day. I would be lying if I said that. This is one of those weird times for me here, though, where, and maybe it's because I'm older. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this is hella old head energy here, but his impact on watching him accomplish was more important to me than any record he put out. Now, I'm aware that the records are what got him there ultimately, and we can talk through steps because people talk about it. Well, and I want to get into this part of the conversation, like him coming from a background. People keep saying, well, he came from this hood, and so But these are the steps, right? You go from one step to the next step, and you continue to progress and grow as a human being. And he seemed to be, growing at an amazing pace and doing amazing things. And what the loss was for me, again, not being a dedicated fan of his music, the loss was just the accomplishments, like what dude was truly fighting for. And he got it. He figured it out. He figured out something that we all talk about. We all talk about neighborhood building. We all talk about neighborhood ownership. We all talk about good health and clean health for our people, or for we all talk about fixing the hood. We all talk about truce. We all talk, and he figured out a way to use his energy, use his influence to actually make these things start to work. And I don't know if I can think of too many people that did that. Not in my lifetime. Like not that I didn't see in history books. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people will say Tupac, and I won't argue with you there. I don't have a singular argument there. But what he was accomplishing, man, it's hard to back off of it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. When you talk about Pac, you start to get into, because I saw, a lot of what we talk about, I think, on this show is going to be seen through the lens of what we read on social media, because we're lazy and we're not going to read a lot more beyond that. But let's be honest. But, it's like comparing athletes who played the same position,
right?
In two completely different eras of the game, whatever the game is. Right?
Side note, that will be Live's contribution to this, by the way. Towards the end, how we do the sports talk, like Live is gonna have to take over your spot, and we're gonna have some of these arguments that we've been having for years. We're gonna get this out of here in 10 minutes, and we're gonna take these arguments to the stage. So Live,
Okay.
Get ready for that. Be prepared. I know you brought notes. I know you was already ready for this. Anyway, go ahead. Back to your point.
Yeah. So, like you said, he was, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you were a fan of his or not.
Right.
He definitely wasn't an artist of his generation that I found unlistenable.
Certainly not.
It's just like I don't listen to a lot of stuff that that come from artists who are in his same sort of generation.
Right.
But he also stood apart from them, to me.
I agree.
And he definitely was somebody who I was prominent enough and noteworthy enough that I made sure I listened, and paid attention. Yeah. But yeah, like you, I'm not, it wasn't like he was in my headphones all the time or whatever. But I think it almost becomes a situation where it's like, here's this person who makes a positive impact in the community he comes from, has made an effort to supercharge his growth by every means that he found available once he had that springboard of rap. It just so happens that he was a rapper in a way, you know what I mean? And his positive, I think people knew more about the positive moves he was making in life than they may have even known about the great music that he was making in the studio. I think that's huge.
I think you're absolutely right about that. But there's also this other question of, like, how much value are you inside the community in which you live and changing the way things are done within the community, and the question of how dangerous the place is that you are, and whether it's actually like a good idea for you to spend like just copious amounts of time in this area where people of low resource are you're in an area where people of low resource and you're around these people where you are a person of high resource, and does that put you in this odd situation of being a target? You know what I'm saying? Or
Sure.
being in the case of what happened, being victimized, right? Because maybe somebody wants to send a message, maybe somebody wants to try to bring you down a notch. And I think it's a fine line you kind of tight roping on dental floss, because you don't really know, you know what I'm saying, where the line is as far as how do you do the most. Like, for instance, Kendrick, I'm pretty sure Kendrick moved out of the hood, but Kendrick still is fighting the battle through his music and doing business and doing all these kind of things. So, you know, it's a good conversation to try to explore whether it's a positive thing to stay where you are to try to do it, or try to do it from afar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a solid point. And you know, and that's the thing. I think that gets to the point of what bothered me about seeing a lot of the feedback online. Not that I feel any particular right to be offended or you know, in any kind of way by anything that anyone else says. It's like, say what you want to say, but he made a decision how he wanted to utilize his resources, and you know, how he wanted to live his life up until he became you know, a well-known MC, and then after he became a well-known MC and business person, how he wanted to then carry that forward. That, you know, he made a decision in that. And I'm not saying that I have no idea whether he knew that he was more at risk in the environment he stayed in than anyone else, or he worried about that or whatever. But that was his choice to make, just like Kendrick has made whatever choices he's made, and everyone else makes choices in their life every day. You know what I mean? But but the thing I saw online was just a lot of conspiracy theory stuff, which is like, man, this situation's if you are a fan of his, whether you're a fan of his music or his business, the situation is already as negative as it can possibly get. Fair. Don't add on to that.
Fair. I would argue a little bit here, as I kind of did with a few people. I just think people grieve differently, and this was so shocking, and you couldn't process it immediately.
Right.
I talk about processing things quite a bit, because I think that's one of the things that we find in this internet culture, this day of fast information and just rapid fire everything. It's your ability, the time you have to process this is much less. So you're receiving and regurgitating immediately. You're not even really truly consuming anything, because you don't hold anything. It's just in and out. And we've had so many weird American conspiracies that turned out to be true.
Right.
So it was like, I didn't know anything about Dr. Sebi and his connection to Dr. Sebi. Like, my initial thing was, yo, I just saw the positive things his brother was doing. I know that he didn't have beef with anybody. Somebody set dude up. Like, that was my immediate, because I couldn't. It's what we call senseless violence, right? You want to make sense of something senseless. Now, of course, as information flew out and became more prevalent, like became more upfront, it was like, okay, this just seems to be absolutely a horrible situation, and I think the conspiracy theories will still flow no matter what. But as we start to find out the truth, we just find out, man, this was just horrible. It was just a horrible thing, and I'd like to hope, I'm going to continue to hope and believe that this was the act of a singular individual who, you know, just took a great human being, you know, out of a neighborhood that needs, it breeds, first of all, that neighborhood breeds great human beings, but he decided to be one that stood in the forefront. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I think that's what I get from the conspiracy theorists. So I kind of leave them alone. It's almost like watching somebody grieve. Like one person might fall on the casket, the other person might sit in the back and cry, and the other person might drive real fast up the freeway the night before or after the funeral. Like it's the impact. But I'm watching people truce, and I'm watching people.
Right.
I'm watching these connections happen, and I'm like, I pray that this stuff all lasts. And I think the conspiracy theorists might be invalidated if all of the positive changes continue to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
If things continue to progress, I think if you're a conspiracy theorist, then you start to say, okay, well, this actually worked out on in you know that in Crenshaw District's favor, in Mid-City's favor, in 60th neighborhood favor, like in Black Los Angeles and you know, inner city Los Angeles, look, South Central favor. You know what I'm saying? So I want the conspiracy theorists to be, you know, thwarted in this. I want the positivity to outweigh the idea that maybe this was a government thing, or maybe it was a connection to, again, I don't know anything about Dr. Sebi. So I don't know, but I don't believe that it had anything to do with that at all. And as soon as somebody told me that theory, I was like, look, I don't believe that. You know what I'm saying? Because the information's out there. So what would be the point of stopping them? And there's so many documentaries out there that can harm government ideology. But look, there are documentaries on COINTELPRO.
Yep.
If anybody did the people who did documentaries on that should be dead, if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? But they're not, because what are you going to do? The bully does what the bully does, and what are you going to do? So, yeah, I feel you on the conspiracy thing. I took a different angle. I just kind of let them grieve and left it at that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. To your point, however you choose to process it, that's up to you. And I think you make a really good point. Shockingly, a lot of good points. A lot of good points. But you know, the fact that everyone processes things differently. Everyone processes things at their own pace, especially when it's a very sudden tragedy. And the one thing about the social media era is that somehow you now put it on yourself, if you participate, to put that reaction somehow in writing for the entire world to see.
Right.
You know, you might. Like, there are definitely times when I'm like, I don't need to say nothing about this.
Oh, there's tons of times. You may not believe it out there for those of y'all who know me, but there are more times that I'm like, I ain't saying nothing about that than times I do actually speak. And usually it's when I don't know.
Right.
When I don't know anything about the situation, I might ask a question like, hey, here's a question that I have, and people out there in the internet world, in the comment section, please answer this question. How is he affording this attorney? I know that he may be doing it pro bono. My question would be why. And if I was an avid conspiracy theorist, that would shock me a little bit. Like, yo, who was your attorney? You know, I'm expecting somebody to come in. I'm expecting basically the prosecutor, you know, the public defender or whatever, whomever, to come in and be on his side. But you got a legit attorney. It's, you know what I'm saying?
And that's because the first wave is everyone's natural reaction, for better or for worse, whether you continue to believe it or not, or whether you agree with it or not. And then there's the second wave, which is, wow, a lot of you are really nutritionally savvy all of a sudden, or how all of you went to law school overnight and know how the criminal justice system works, you know, for one man over the course of the last 30 years in Los Angeles.
What's so funny about that, though, and this is the common theme of the show, which is internet culture, is I can actually look up the answer to what you're talking about. I don't know if people really know that. Like,
but that's because you have the special Google.
I have the well. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. You know, Lori Loughlin said that I couldn't go to real college, so I'm saying I can actually look the answer to that up. And some answers are much harder to find than others. It's how you query and how you search or whatever. But I can.
You have to charge your battery too.
You do have to charge the battery. Look, we're gonna do these. I'm not sure if the audience is super happy about these MacBook jokes, and I'm not. If you want these sponsorships to happen, I'm not certain if Steve might walk in here any minute, because we know that that he's cryogenically frozen somewhere like Han Solo, and that he might return.
But out here tripping, brought to you by Apple.
Brought to you by Apple.
Yeah, are words that will never be said in that order by anybody.
You know what? I'm not even gonna do this. I'm gonna speak. I'm telling you, TripAdvisor would be the best sponsor for that.
Manifest it.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Anybody who got the link to TripAdvisor, it's got to be somebody out there. Tell them, man, jump on board before the prices go up. Right now, you could just cover the cost of the podcast. You know what I'm saying? But when the prices go up,
The gas.
yeah, exactly. You got to cover the gas and the brew and the website charges. But when the prices go up, it's gonna be a wrap. But I do want to make sure that we do say this again, regardless of the thoughts and opinions on how it happened, and regardless of how positive or negative people may believe he was. Rest in peace to him, and all prayers go out to his family. All thoughts and prayers go out to his family for the loss of their son, brother, cousin. You know what I'm saying? And his family and friends. And I think
No doubt. And his family's big in Los Angeles.
his family, yeah. And I really hope the marathon continues. I hope people finish the vision, and I hope a lot of MCs out there that do have the influence look at what he's doing and say, you know what, man, I'm gonna do the same thing in my area. I'm gonna continue to buy up the block and here's my kind of my thought as I was driving up the freeway. I'm from for those of y'all who don't know, I'm from South Central LA, but we moved early in my life when I was 10, 11 years old out to the 626 out to West Covina. At the time it was the 818 or whatever. But your street names out there, Baldwin and Workman, and these are people who own property. You know what I'm saying? And as you go out through LA, these are people who made impacts on the community early on in its existence. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing as time goes on. The more influence, the more power that you have, the more real estate that you acquire, the more your name ends up on that street sign. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a very important thing for us to continue to build on the idea of owning our own thing, vertical integration consistently, not just owning the product that you put out, but owning the outlet in which the product comes out. And I'm really hoping that message leaked through to the young people that he was high-fiving and that he was talking to and buying shoes for and the neighborhood he was taking care of. I hope that continues. Like, I hope that that's the fight that continues from this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? All right, Kev. You got to roll out. Me and Live we got to do this Laker talk.
Oh, do it.
Yeah. So we got my man Audio Live in the house. And we have a fair amount of difference of opinion.
Yeah, to say the least.
on the Lakers.
To say the least.
And this might go. Let's see. Yeah, this might go back a little bit as far as not our difference of opinion, but how far back we do the Laker thing. So I'm gonna out and out say, I hope that Magic Johnson does well. That's my initial thing.
That's the first thing you're gonna lead with.
I'm gonna lead with that off top because
Okay.
I've never not hoped he's done well.
Okay.
I think that the method in which the franchise was taken over and his inexperience is showing really brightly right now, and I'm feeling real right now. I'm feeling real good about how right I am.
I don't
about
know
this.
how you could be feeling so right about what.
Okay, well take me through it, man. Take me through what you see in all of this, and go back as far as you want to go.
So to kind of start it off, like I personally feel like the previous general managers, administration, whatever you want to call it, my initial thought was that they severely mismanaged the end of Kobe Bryant's career.
Okay.
So this was a legendary player, a once in a generational player, and he possessed the ability, the will to win, the dominance, whatever you want to call it, to carry the franchise to wherever it wanted to go.
Okay.
But constantly and consistently, we were bringing in guys that he had to drag along
Fair.
the way. Smush Parker, Kwame Brown, all these guys that Kobe Bryant had to try to work with, drag along in the middle of his prime years, right?
Right.
So I felt like this was a severe mismanagement from like the jump.
Okay.
And then moving on to this, he starts waning, he gets hurt. Now we're automatically in the down years anyway because the guy's hurt.
Fair.
So not the new regime, but the Jerry Buss starts to fade out, and Jim Buss and Jeannie Buss kind of slide in.
Sure.
And now everybody's talking about when is the next resurgence of the Lakers going to happen. And so once that narrative started to kind of sink into the kind of pores of the Laker community, it was like people started waiting for when the Lakers were going to start blowing up again, right? We expect the Lakers to always be dominant.
Yes.
And so the administration kept telling the public, we are going to be dominant soon.
I think that was a fatal flaw.
Right.
I agree with that.
Jim Buss was on Max Kellerman and I can't think of the other guy's name, but
Marcel.
the evening
Marcellus.
drive. Yeah, Marcellus.
Yeah.
Telling every 6 months or a year, he'd come on and say, it's about to happen.
Was it Jim Buss or was it Mitch Kupchak? I think that was
Jim
Mitch.
Buss went on there too.
Okay,
He went
cool.
on there too and said, I'll resign.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If we
Ultimately.
don't get better next year.
Right.
So he kind of boxed himself in with that.
Agreed.
And I think he opened the door for people to start pointing the finger at him because the team wasn't doing that good anyway.
I feel like the finger was pointed initially because he was the son and Jeannie was adored and Jim was the quiet one. He was the one with the kind of, when you tell the story of Jim Buss, and this is why I actually started to really look into it, you start negative immediately. And maybe that's because he was a horrible human being, but I just have this thing that that can't be true. Like, it's not like this dude is like the most terrible human being on the planet.
No, I don't think he was.
And I don't think he was, and I think where I do agree with you, and I have a fair amount of reasoning for this, that there was a probably a lot more that could have happened with Kobe Bryant's career. They did win 2 championships with this dude.
They did.
And it's not, and I don't think that's ever credited to them. I think when we talk about Mitch and Jim, we just act like they started we start with Nick Young. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah,
this is a group that won 2 championships.
You leave out is that you didn't particularly do anything except have maybe the second greatest player of all time on your team.
And that's the part.
When your dad passed away and you took over. So what did you do?
No, because they took over when Shaq left. Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss took over Shaq's last year. That's the part that we're never discussing as Laker fans. That whole run from having to rebuild, move Caron Butler, get more picks, pick up a bench squad, make something out of Sasha Vujacic, like. That was all Mitch and Jim. So I want to make sure, first of all, that Laker fans stop discrediting what they did, because they did have to take a franchise that lost maybe the best center of that time, right? It's fair to argue that.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
And had to, then rebuild this whole squad around, arguably the best, shooting guard, basically best player at that time, or I don't care where you slot Kobe Bryant. At the end of the day, he was the best player in Los Angeles once Shaq walked out. End of the story. And he was top 5 in the league. Wherever you put him, you can put him anywhere you want. All right.
I'll put him number 1.
Okay.
But hey, that's me.
Other people would argue differently,
Yeah.
and a lot of that would be personal, and I can understand that. But those are your emotions, and I ain't dealing with those.
It's not an emotion.
Yeah. I'm saying other people that would argue that.
Yeah.
I'm saying not you. But see, do y'all see how this goes? Like, I can't, you know what I'm saying? But okay, so we can move to my point with their accomplishments leading up to when they were ousted. So when Magic Johnson came on as a consultant, I actually was pretty hyped. I was like, okay, look, you guys can't get in a room and draw and get free agents. It's clear. It's clear. One thing that is very clear, where you seem to have drafted very well, because, you look at Larry Nance, you look at Jordan Clarkson, these are late round picks.
Yeah.
You look, they did a very good job filling out the team once they got past the salary issues from the, past championship team. And that's not anything new. We've seen that with other past great teams. After you pay for these championships, you pay these players, and then for a couple years, you got to let those contracts run out.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So you got your Wesley Johnsons and your Xavier Henrys for $1 million and whatever,
Yeah,
right?
you have to do that.
You got to do it. So, but I thought that they should have run that for a season, before Magic took over. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if you could, and I don't argue this. This is my opinion, but it also matches the opinion of other great GMs and other, more respectable talking heads. That Jim Buss is Mitch Kupchak was a great GM. He's a great basketball mind in the front office. To replace him with a rookie like Rob Pelinka, who I'm sure will be a great basketball mind and probably has, some qualities, some great qualities about him, knowing the business the way he had to know it to navigate through contracts as an agent. I thought you should have kept somebody around that knew what they were doing. You got Jesse Buss and David West back there doing great scouting, which, got you Kyle Kuzma. I still think you traded D'Angelo Russell a little too early, but we'll get into that. We'll take a second on that.
But can
you know what I'm saying?
You're mentioning these background, no other team mentions these background guys because they share the last name of this historical owner. If you hire somebody that does a good job of scouting, or if this person was already in the organization and does a good job of scouting, the GM gets the credit for that.
Sure. So that credit goes to Mitch Kupchak.
You highlighting these guys like, okay, this guy did a good job. This guy did a good job.
But I'm saying,
if you on the chronos clocking in, you getting paid. Okay, cool. You're doing a good job. But that does.
Well, okay, but if that's the
case,
get
the credit for
then
that.
You give him Mitch Kupchak credit.
If I say, hey, this guy's balling over here, we need to bring this guy up from the G League or wherever it is,
right?
And you bring him up, you got to get the credit.
Alex Caruso just put up 32 last night, and Mitch Kupchak was the one that brought him up. So again, if you want to go that direction, then you got to credit him for. You got to credit Mitch Kupchak for
this guy's been up and down from the G League, and he had a good night. I mean, the 33-year-old guy who been hustling his whole career, they brought him up for 10 games. And that last year when they brought him up, he balled out.
I'll give credit to Magic for that. I didn't hear nothing about him before.
I'm just saying. This is like, we just kind of it doesn't matter.
It does matter because and this is where it matters. You got rid of an all-star, a player. You got rid of an all-star player, not for basketball reasons, but for homie reasons, like for corny reasons. And all of y'all who talking about he snitched or whatever, get out of here. Y'all cornballs for that. That's part one. Part two is you actually got rid of contracts you could have used this season because the whole idea that these contracts were quote-unquote bad without any perspective is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's something that we throw around all the time. That team was going to lose no matter what. They weren't getting any free agents, not because the GM was bad or whatever. It's because if you know that the head owner, the voice of the team, doesn't like her brother, mainly because she couldn't work with her boyfriend. Like, let's be honest. Like, are we just gonna sit here and act like Jeannie Buss was upset with Jim Buss because he was running the team wrong? Knock it off. You were mad because he didn't hire Phil Jackson, but you yourself, Phil Jackson, Jim Buss, and Mitch Kupchak all corroborated the story, including Magic Johnson later, that Jerry Buss also did not want Phil Jackson there as a coach. So who are you really mad at? Like this whole thing is nonsense.
I wouldn't totally disagree with that. Yeah, and that may very well be true. However, in the grand scheme of it all, I'm not sure if it really makes a difference because organizations are ran by people.
Right.
And so some people make impulsive decisions. Some people think them through. Other GMs, they do it like this, they do it like that. I understand that. Right. You know what I'm saying? But this is the situation that happened. This is a person that she fell in love with and valued, and maybe she wanted to hold the line for him. I get it.
Yeah, then he went to New York and ruined their team.
And it just is what it is. But I think that Jim opened the door to get stabbed in the back.
Fair.
Because the Laker community are very passionate, very, these people really are 100% the Lakers all the way. And we listen to the radio, we watch the shows, we trying to find out whatever's going on. And you came out and said, if we don't do well, I'm out of here. And when you didn't do well, you were out of here. And
Magic,
that's just
Magic said the same thing. And where I'm gonna be
where
out there.
Where did he say
Magic
it?
Magic said he would fire himself as well. We gonna be this way in a couple of years, and he would fire himself. So listen, I'm gonna say this: I don't want Magic to fail because I'd like to have a successful black president of basketball operations and ultimately successful black owners in the NBA. I don't want him to fail. What I want to stop at the end of the day is the narrative that these dudes could have fixed the franchise where they had to spend the money because the patriarch of the franchise was dying. So they put up money they probably wouldn't have put up. They gave up picks they probably wouldn't have given up. They paid more money to Kobe Bryant, and we would have agreement and disagreement on the side of whether Kobe should have been paid that type of money. But it wasn't the type of money that they didn't want to pay him all of that money. Genie up the bread. So now you got less bread to work with. I think at the end of the day, the narrative that I want to end is that they could have done anything. I don't think that they could have done anything, especially after Kobe Bryant's Achilles flew across the floor.
I don't think they could have did anything either. I agree with you that they could not have done anything. And so this guy, you've
been with me the whole time.
I haven't been with you. No, I haven't been with you the whole time. If you're talking about the contract for Kobe Bryant, they had to do that.
But they had to do that because another number in mind initially.
Another 2 years to make Jack happy. To all these celebrities, you needed another Denzel. You needed another 2 years to just ride this wave all the way home. But once it was a done deal and the team just was stinking it up, you know what I'm saying? Just year after year, no postseason, you stinking it up. Where I do think that they may have got it wrong is that you have to know when to change gears. Sometimes you have to get out of this idea that we always hit the home run. Sometimes you have to hit a lot of singles.
They did. They went after young players. They built a young team.
Yeah, but they did that. They did that with the intent of using the young players to hit the home run.
Well,
but it wasn't this idea we're going to hit a lot of singles and then eventually we're going to score a lot of runs and win games.
Is doing now, though, right? That's the whole AD debacle in the middle of the season. They use this idea that, we're gonna package all of these players who haven't proven themselves yet, and go hit the home run.
What is your idea of how? Because here's the thing, Magic got in trouble for collusion one time, right? And he got fined.
Yes.
And we all know that in NBA, a coach can't collude, a GM can't collude, but players can collude.
That's fine.
And what are the chances you think that Magic and LeBron had a conversation and LeBron said, I could bring him home. I could do it.
Those are the rules.
I could do it.
First of all,
and LeBron wields so much power that Magic had to have this idea that, you know what, I'm going to let him go. Yeah, I'm going to let him go out here and try to get this guy. Come on, man. Rich Paul works for LeBron.
We sit up here every day.
And LeBron is a known colluder.
Every time I go to Starbucks, it's Magic Johnson. I can't pass by TGI Fridays. I don't even lift a weight without saying, that's Magic Johnson's 24-hour fit. At the end of the day, he came in saying he was Magic Johnson. I don't care what LeBron said.
Is LeBron James more powerful than Magic Johnson?
You just told me.
Is LeBron James more powerful than Magic Johnson?
In L.A.? No.
But he does wield more power.
You just told me
that
the GM deserves credit. Kev, did he just not say that the GM, if I'm going to credit the GM for their positives, I can credit them for their negatives. That was a negative thing. It was a foolish play to begin with. And we all know it. You weren't going to win. Your odds of winning this year were less. They weren't dead.
You think that the AD play was a foolish play?
I think the way that they played it was a foolish play. I think you make an offer, maybe you make a second offer, and then that's it. You don't do the 7-8 different offers that you made. It was embarrassing. And you know what I thought before that happened? And we got to wrap this up because this joint could go on forever, whatever. And Magic Johnson out here tripping. I'm going to put that out there. TripAdvisor, pay me for that. But anyway, but at the end of the day, listen, you make your offer and you walk away. Because at some point, all I knew was going to happen. I knew that the black GM in New Orleans was going to get fired. I just knew that was all was going to happen. All was going to happen was the brother was going to get fired.
I really didn't see that coming.
I saw that coming. As soon as they hit Twitter in New Orleans,
I didn't really see that coming. But they put the leaking on him. They put that leaking on him. And then that was the end of the deal.
Y'all can scroll through my timeline. I called that.
Let me just say the reason that they had to go offer 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 players is because LeBron James is 34 years old. Next year he's going to be 35 years old. And if they didn't go all in right now, it's a done deal. You can see the juice running out of the tank after every game. And now it's pretty much a done deal anyway. So this is our GM. This is our team. LeBron's on the way out. I'm sorry. Nobody really want to hear that. Woo. The boosters is not firing the same way. This is just what it is, man. And right now we're already in a bad way. We're not getting AD. and now we don't know who we getting. LeBron's on the way down, and now the team's just looking bad. You can put it on who you want to, but we had to make that play.
Should have stuck with the direction, Jeannie. This is Rap Sucks Radio. You can catch us on
Trexy
rapsucksradio.com.
Contrarian, don't doubt it.
Jeannie, holla at me. You know what I'm saying? I can help you out. You got to knock all this nonsense off. Rapsucksradio.com. This is your homeboy Trek Life in the building with my man Kev Sakota, and of course our special guest who I know specifically came here to argue this Laker. As soon as I saw,
Oh, you can best believe it.
so okay, we gave you that. I knew that was gonna happen. So anyway, this is rapsucksradio.com. Please continue to check us out, man. We will only get better from here. Sponsors, holla at us. We do have segments for sponsors. And peace, y'all. We out. Late.